Welcome back to the gospel. It is one of my favorite shows of the week, the fantasy football show. Uh, Hobby near and dear to my heart, and obviously it's near and dear to yours as well. If you're listening to this show, hope your week is going well. Hope your season is going well. I'm your host, Zay, the fantasy football fiend, and my guy, young Vander, the fantasy Nostradamus. Holla at the people, young Vander.
What's going on out there?
So make sure you're following us on YouTube at the Gospel STP. Again, that's the Gospel STP. If you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, make sure you also join us there. That's the Gospel Sports Truth Facebook group. And you have up-to-date information. We just put out some information on the Facebook group where it gives you the breakdown of the targets. It gives you the breakdown of the snap percentages, all that kind of good stuff. So you'll kind of know what guys may be getting a little bit more work or a little bit less work than you thought they were getting. That is exclusively available to you in the Facebook group. So make sure that you check that out. With that being said, let's go ahead and hop right into it. Got a lot going on that will be affecting the world of fantasy, and we'll definitely deep dive into that. We'll also do some rapid fire 10, and we'll get into the mailbag and answer some of the specific questions that have been put out there. Let's go ahead and start with quarterbacks. Spencer Rattler will be starting again due to Derek Carr still dealing with the oblique injury. It looks like he may be out another week or two, but his job is going to be safe upon his return. Another injury, Andy Dalton and his family were in a car accident. And so Carolina's monitoring that situation. Um, Supposedly a thumb injury that's going to minimally keep him out for this week. Bryce Young will be back in the fold. Who knows what happens from there? If you're hard pressed for a QB and you're one of those super flex or two QB leagues and all the quarterbacks are gobbled up, it's a possibility that someone booted him, um, Ben Young, off the team when he got benched. Tua Tagovailoa is back. He will be returning from concussion protocol this week. Obviously, that's a big feather in the cap of Tyreek Hill and Waddle. Let me ask you this, and this isn't fantasy related as much, or I guess depending on how you look at it, it could be because Tua being around is very much fantasy related. If you have the concussion issues that he has, and it's been proven that the Guardian caps that some players have chosen to wear has cut down on concussions, why would you not? Why would the NFL or the Dolphins not make it mandatory for him to wear this cap? Like I don't understand why he would personally choose not to, knowing that he's susceptible, but also why the team wouldn't be like, hey, we kind of need you around and one more of these things, and it might not be up to you or us if you will be around. So like I don't understand it.
I'm sure it was recommended, but let's face it, some of the players just don't like how it looks. At that point, it's not even about safety; it's about the look.
It looked better than that West Coast sign he was throwing up when he got hit in the head. I mean, like that's a bad look too. I'm just saying,
Absolutely,
like,
but it's the same thing as somebody driving with no seatbelt. Some people don't like the way it holds them, hugs them, or the way it looks when they're driving. Therefore, they refuse to wear a seatbelt when it's for safety. No difference.
and but that's a great comparison because a lot of people that wear seatbelts today would not be wearing them if it wasn't the law. So like sometimes somebody above you has to step in and show you that I'm doing this for you. And if you don't do it, then there are certain repercussions, things of that nature. But I don't know.
They probably should implement something like if you hit like two concussions and something like that, make it a number, and then it becomes
Yeah.
mandatory at that point.
Mason Rudolph is trending toward week 8 now. We don't know what that's going to look like. The Titans aren't quite catching on to the offense that I thought they would be able to run with the former OC from the Bengals being there. in life doesn't get much easier now that Bernard Hopkins, I was about to say Bernard Hopkins, good Lord, DeAndre Hopkins is no longer in the fold. And then on top of that, I want to say that Treylon Burks is on IR. So, I mean, they have Ridley, Westbrook Icon, and not a whole bunch after
I
that.
think I think Tyler Boyd should be someone that
Boyd,
someone
yes, yes, Boyd. I forgot about Boyd. Yeah, he might be the target leader at this point because for whatever reason they're not passing the ball to Ridley. So that'll be interesting for sure. Jayden Daniels still not practicing. Um, I believe they're going to sit him down for a couple weeks. Um, they didn't come back and say that anything was worse than what they originally thought it was, which there were no breaks or anything like that. So that's a good thing. But if I'm them, I probably sit this young man down for 2 to 3 weeks just to make sure. It's 3 weeks if we keep winning, 2 weeks if we lose the next two games. That's kind of how that's the window that I would be looking at if I'm Washington. But if Mariota get out there and he has a little bit of a resurgence and he can will the team to win for 3 weeks, might sit you down for 4. Like until they said until you feel no pain and the doctors say you're 100% good to go, or until we can't afford to lose anymore and you're willing to deal with the pain, whichever one of those two come first is kind of where I am. Would you look at it differently in your football mind, or am I on point?
No, that makes sense. I mean, this particular injury is more of a pain tolerance thing anyway. There's not really a dip in production um, as far as that's concerned. So it's really the pain, at the end of the day. So I'm with you on that. I think 2 weeks would be a nice, and if we winning, let's continue it on. And it also depends on our opponent. I think they have the Carolina Panthers coming up, if I'm not mistaken. But if you got easier games, no, they already played the Carolina Panthers, I believe. But if
Yeah,
you
they
have
played Carolina last week.
yeah, so you have easier games coming up, then you may be definitely more inclined to sit them for that game as well.
Might sit you until we get back to the division games again, something like that. So DTR Dorian Thompson Robinson had a grand entrance and a grand exit the same game. Um, yeah, I guess we know what we need to know about DTR at this point. Jameis Winston is going to be the guy, and at least he's going to be the one starting. I don't foresee him getting benched to get a little bit more of what we didn't see from Robinson last week for the quarter that he got into the game. But my question to you is on Winston. How do we see that faring throughout the rest of the season? Could he be a fantasy darling, or does he not really have the weapons to make it shake?
I definitely think he'd be a fantasy darling because let's face it, Winston, he'll let it rip. The D came out and said Ken Dorsey's going to be making calls moving forward. So I think that's definitely something to watch. I think I like the kid Tillman from out of
Okay.
Tennessee, the second-year receiver. Now that Mari Cooper's gone, he's probably gonna get a lot more targets, and maybe Njoku will probably be finally unlocked again, like we've seen him with Flacco. So yeah, I think he could be a fantasy dollar for sure. It may not win real football games, but as far as fantasy goes, I think Winston can definitely be one of those guys.
Your boy Aaron Rodgers, hamstring issue, knee issue, ankle issue. I don't know if that's just all soreness. If there's anything close to being doubtful, they're labeling it as a hamstring flare up. I don't really know how to judge that per se. All I do know is if I'm Devontae Adams and I went from 1-2-16 to another 2-16 to specifically play with one guy, and now that guy isn't available, I'm gonna be heated. God forbid he retire after this year because he don't want to go through another season like what the Jets are going through right now. Like I would be heated. Like we couldn't be friends no more. Like we you ain't my boy no more. I'm sorry. Like the injury you can't avoid, but I just don't feel in my heart of hearts that if Aaron Rodgers feels like next season can go the way that this season is going, and we already know he ain't gonna put in no work in the offseason. He don't believe in that anymore at this point in his career. So do you think he would actually come back to have another season like the way this one is going?
It depends. I mean, he may want to end up on a better note. So if he doesn't like the note that's ending and he wanted to rewrite his story, then I can definitely see him coming back, finishing. Also, I mean, I'm not sure how many years is left on that contract. He may have just 1 year left on it
I want to say,
because this is second
was
year
it a
in.
was it a 3 or 4 year contract?
I don't know. Could be a three. You know what I'm saying? So
Okay.
he may finish out
If
the
it was a three,
contract.
then next year's the last year.
And I mean, him and Devonta did spend time with each other before the trade. Therefore, these conversations probably have already came up. You know what I mean? So
I mean, you would hope so, but I mean, I Aaron Rodgers doesn't strike me as the type of dude that would have ever thought that 8 games into a 7 game 8 games into the season he would be 2-6. Like I don't feel like he's the type of person that would have ever crossed his mind. And the reality of it may be a little bit heavier than the thought that it could be the case. You, champions don't ever feel like they're going to be a loser. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not a part of the thought. You don't become a champion by thinking that losing is a possibility, if that makes sense. So I don't know if he ever felt like he could have had the type of season that he's having right now. I didn't I didn't have high hopes for him, but I didn't see this. So I mean, yeah, that we'll have to see how that goes. Let me ask you this question because I know our listeners are dying to hear this one. Rest of season, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins.
I'm gonna say Devonta Adams, being that he is the guy. He has a rapport already. Um, with the Chiefs, anybody can get it. You know what I'm saying? Kelsey is still there. You have Worthy still there. Juju Smith-Schuster will be back in the fold soon, and so like there's so many miles to feed. And for that reason, I would say Devonta Adams very, very easily. I think this move with Hopkins, though it may be a good football move as far as fantasy is concerned, he maybe went from wide receiver 5 to wide receiver 3. You know what I'm saying? At best. So don't be thinking this is like, wide receiver 1 or 2 territory. I don't think that, but he may have creeped up into the bottom of 3.
So with that being said, if you're a Hopkins owner, do you sell him before you ever see him on the field and act as if you got a wide receiver 1?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it depends. I mean, it depends on what you need. If you need running back help, um, absolutely. Absolutely. I would. I mean, there's a few running backs out there that I would sell them for. Hmm. Mm, 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 mm. Maybe
How you feel about Hunt?
I doubt the Hunt owner want to give them to you. You know what I'm saying? But definitely, if you can get Hunt for me, go for it for sure.
A couple other guys on the wide receiver list here. Puka Nakua may just play this week. They have the Thursday night game, so that may make it a little tricky. It's looking as if he should be ready to go. He was designated to return from injured reserve, which kind of puts him in that window. We'll have to see what happens on Thursday. Would you be willing to go ahead and roll him out there if he does play Thursday night? Or do you need to give him a game or two to kind of get his legs underneath?
It depends on your options, honestly.
Indeed.
You got some Puka Nakua owners that been waiting. They've been, just filling in that spot with random guys. I would play him over a Wicks or one of those kind of guys that I'm just filling in type. But you definitely drafted this guy to play him. So if he's on the field, he's ready. That's how I'm looking at it. You know what I'm saying?
Michael Pittman Jr. not practicing on Wednesday. Still dealing with that back injury. It feels like it's a little bit more maintenance. It's not a new injury, and they aren't indicating that it has gotten worse. Chris Olave back at practice on Wednesday. He had a concussion. DK Metcalf won't practice Wednesday or Thursday. He had a knee issue. It's been labeled as an MCL sprain. We don't have a grade on that, but the fact that they're saying that he won't practice Wednesday or Thursday and they haven't ruled out practicing or already labeled him as doubtful, I'm looking at that as your possible. Actually, no, it has a grade 1. So that's something that he may be able to work his way back from this week. If not, I don't see it being more than a 1-week issue. So no wholesale changes as far as DK is concerned. Jacoby Myers set to practice on Wednesday. He was dealing with an ankle injury. We do have Chris Godwin, whose fantasy season is over. I mean, I know you never want to call it a quits, but a lot of times these season-ending, career-impacting injuries happen with a few seconds left in the game that you're not going to win. And, I mean, it is what it is. Wish him all the best, but I just hate to see that type of an injury go down in true garbage time. We talked about DeAndre heading over to Kansas City. Adam Thielen, his practice window is officially open to return to Carolina. They're also talking about Johnson, who Carolina just traded Pittsburgh to get Deontay Johnson. They're saying that he may be on the road to another team. So I don't really, I don't exactly know where that comes from, if it was a request by him or if they're just kind of packing it up and mailing it in for the season and they would rather go ahead and get something for the guy that they don't see as a part of their future and they're kind of rebuilding on the fly or what. But he's not exactly old and he wouldn't be the worst thing to have around just as a veteran receiver. So I haven't read anything or seen anything that said that he wanted out, but that's what it kind of feels like. Have you heard anything as far as Deontay was concerned, or other than the fact that they're shopping?
I just don't think he's happy with where he is. Um, Look at the quarterback situation. I think it's just a disgruntled wide receiver. There has been some like little posts and things of that nature. People kind of reading between the lines of. So maybe I think that's where it's coming from. So, and there's a lot of wide receiver needy teams as we approach. You've been hearing Cooper Cup name floating around a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
D Hop, Mari Cooper, Devonta Adams, like some of these guys. So I think that's really what's coming from. It's a mixture of a few things.
And you mentioned Cup. Right now, the Steelers are the team that's indicated that will probably end up going after him. They're saying that Kansas City did kind of kick the tires, but they didn't want to give up the compensation that was going to be necessary to get Cup. And Hopkins was a whole lot cheaper. And when you got Patrick Mahomes, you don't need the best of the best for them to look like the best. You just need a warm body that actually knows what they're doing. They got a little bit of that plus more with Hopkins. I really believe that Hopkins has a lot more in the tank than what it has looked like based on the schemes and teams that he's played with. With Andy Reid and with Patrick Mahomes and the other talent on the field, I kind of feel like we may see a little bit of a resurgence. He's not going to be the Hopkins of he's not going to be the Texans Hopkins. That's not what I'm saying. But he's not going to be the pariah that nobody in fantasy wants on their team. Like the Hopkins, why you even put him in the trade? Like he's not going to be that guy anymore. So that'll be a good thing for all parties involved. We got a couple of tight ends to throw out there before we get to rapid fire 10. Tommy Tremble working through a back injury. Jatavian Sanders limited in practice, groin and wrist injury. Dallas Goedert unable to practice on Wednesday, still dealing with a hamstring injury. So it looks like he may miss another game. Dawson Knox not practicing. He missed Wednesday with an ankle. Dalton Kincaid was limited in practice. He is dealing with a collarbone issue. TJ Hawkinson, officially questionable for Thursday. So that's an upgrade for him, who was on the PUP list with the knee injury. I don't know that they rolled him out Thursday, but I believe that him being questionable this week indicates that he's probably going to be good to go for next week. And the fact that he's in a tight end friendly offense and he's going to have some wide receivers out there that take a lot of the focus off of him. I don't know if the Hawkinson owner would be willing to deal when they waited 8 weeks of the season for him to come back. Maybe it's a team that has a losing record right now, and they just want somebody that they can play this week because they need a win this week. That may be something you may want to kick the tires on. If I'm a winning team and I've waited this long, I gotta keep that scratch off. I gotta see if that lottery ticket, ends up paying off. And because I'm already winning, it doesn't really necessarily matter if he doesn't end up being the Hawkinson of old until next year, when the injuries, completely behind him, because I didn't need him to build a winning streak anyway. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as Hawkinson is concerned. Do you see it the same, or do you see it a little differently as we wrap up before we move over to Rapid Fire 10?
Yeah, I definitely feel where you're coming from. I'm a Hawkinson owner in 2 leagues. One league, I have a losing record, but I have, Laporta, so I'm not really worried about tight end. But in another league, I'm undefeated, and I have him, and I have Schultz starting. So I'm really excited about that. That he's coming back and probably going to catapult my team even higher. So it's a tale of
worst case scenario. He'll be equal to Schultz. Like Schultz ain't been it this year.
Right. Even though with the wide receiver out in Houston, it still hasn't really correlated to more targets or whatever. So
makes sense.
Yep.
That wraps up the news and notes. Let's go ahead and hop into Rapid Fire 10 before we get to your specific questions for the week and the rest of the season. What we got for Rapid Fire 10, man?
Let's get right into it, man. Who do I start? We got Marcus Mariota or Anthony Richardson.
I'm not gonna sit Richardson if he's healthy. It might be the only week that you can start him before he's injured again. I didn't draft him where I had to draft him to sit him for Mariota, so I'm gonna go with Richardson.
All right, we got Jameis Winston or Trevor Lawrence.
Can the Jaguars put together back-to-back weeks of an offense, or do I go with the guy that I know is going to sling the rock and probably be in a position of garbage time mattering in fantasy more than it matters in the NFL? I think I'm going to roll with Winston in this
one. All right, we got Devon Achane or Javonte Williams.
Give me Achane. Give me the lightning in a box. I look at him the same way I look at Anthony Richardson. Start him while he's healthy.
We got Tank Bigsby or Trevor Etienne.
Okay.
I'm in that kind of well, I already know what I'm doing, but I can see where they're coming from.
I'm gonna do the same thing that coaches say they do. I gotta ride the hot hand. Give me Bigsby. And the fact that he's the goal line back as well. Yeah, I gotta go with Bigsby.
We got Rashad White or Bucky Irvin.
I saw something that indicated that Bucky had something going on injury-wise. I don't exactly remember what it was. Rashad White seemed to get a little bit more run this past week, so I think I'm probably gonna have to go. It don't feel right, but I think I'm gonna have to go with. I think I'm gonna have to go with White. Give me 1 second. I want to check out real quick what the split was this past week. Um, it looks like White had 16 carries, Urban had 12 carries, so a 48% to a 35% split. It kind of felt like White had a little bit more run, so I think I'm gonna stay with White.
All right. We got Jalen Waddle or Brian Thomas Jr.
Thomas Jr. Thomas Jr. Stay in the flames.
We got George Pickens or Brian Thomas Jr.
Thomas Jr.
Okay. All right, we got a tight end question. We have Mark Andrews or Sam Laporta.
So the guy that has scored a touchdown the last 2 weeks, or the guy that hasn't scored a touchdown the last 2 weeks.
And also, you said again?
I think Sam Laporta's due.
And I mean, also with the Jamison Williams suspension looming, that probably can free up a few more targets for him. So
absolutely, you're right.
I definitely understand that bit. All right, we got Xavier Worthy or Nick Chubb.
Worthy. Nick Chubb didn't look that good. He had like 11 carries for 22 yards at one point. They gave him a touchdown for a feel good type situation. But yeah, I don't think Chubb's quite back to being himself yet.
All right, we got the Denver Broncos defense or the Kansas City Chiefs defense.
Give me the Broncos defense.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. And it's funny, right? So Bryce Young may be returning, and look what he's returning to. Like the kid can't win.
Can't catch a break.
Yeah. And last but not least, we have another flex question. We have Wan'Dale Robinson or Zach Moss.
I'm gonna run with Moss just because I believe he's more likely to get. Well, actually, let me preface this. If you're in a PPR league, I'm gonna go with Robinson because I believe he's going to get enough targets and catches that even if he doesn't have a big day, doesn't score a touchdown, he'll still give you double digits. If you're in a standard league, I'm gonna go with Moss because I believe he's more likely to get a touchdown.
So that concludes our rapid fire 10.
All right, good people. So let's get to your questions that you have sent in for the week. Starting out with a trade offer. And of course, it involves DeAndre Hopkins. Our listener would be receiving DeAndre Hopkins and giving up Chubb and Sutton. Would you take it?
Oh man. Yeah, I'm taking Hopkins in that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean more than likely Sutton and Chubb, you did not play any of these guys all year long, I'm assuming. And now you trade off a guy that you actually can maybe insert. So nah, I'm gonna take Hopkins.
This one, the trade has already happened. In many cases, like, look, even if you got to shoot us a DM, like once you make the trade, it's too late. But you asked us to grade the trade, so I'll put it out there. I just traded for Kamara I gave up the following: Kareem Hunt, Garrett Wilson, Josh
It's not,
Downs,
you
and
already
I
messed
don't
up.
know who is drops. I don't know the drop situation, but got Kamara, gave up Hunt, Wilson, and Downs. Who won the trade?
You lost the trade. I mean, Kamara, they just
Gotta
came out
agree.
and said he been playing with a broken hand for the last couple of weeks. And there was a little dip in his production the last couple of weeks as well. So I'm not sure if that hand is really playing a part or not. But with the emergence of Kareem Hunt, I mean, at this point, they're pretty much even.
Pretty
You know what I'm
much.
saying? How they're playing, how they're being used. I mean, actually, Hunt is in a better offense, so he has more opportunity. And then Garrett Wilson, why just throw him in there just because? Like he's a throw-in, and Downs is connected to. If we see Flacco return, then Downs gets a boost. So I thought you really lost this trade. So graded for you, uh, D minus.
This is another trade that has already happened, and I'm trying to make sure. Okay, who won this trade? I'll be getting CMC.
Hmm. Hopefully,
He
you got a
gave
winning
up
record.
Cooper Cup and Jamison Williams for the CMC that's not available to play yet.
This only works if you have a winning record.
In that part, well, he does say my current wide receivers are Hill, Diggs, Waddle, and Addison. So he got CMC, gave up Cup and Williams, but he has Hill, Diggs, Waddle, and Addison. Um, but he didn't say who he had at running back, so I don't necessarily know.
All right.
You know,
And how many roster spots he could put at wide receiver too. So if
correct?
it's only
Yeah.
two, if you only could put two, then I'm okay with it. If you have a winning record and you're just looking at on the back end of the season, at that point, then I'm fine with it. So I'm okay with that.
We got a waiver wire question. Sterling Shepard is available. As we know, Evans and Godwin both got hurt in Tampa Bay.
Mm.
He wants to know who should he drop. Miles Sanders,
Yeah.
Kenneth Gainwell,
Yeah.
Dixon out of Indy, Robinson with the Rams, Palmer or Juju.
I put it to you like this. Before the before the trade deadline, I mean, Gainwell, I would say, if you're waiting for the trade deadline, you thinking Miles Sanders maybe move somewhere, then I'm okay with you waiting. But flip a coin. I mean, either one is fine. I mean, I'm okay with dropping Miles Sanders because with Brooks returning, he's probably going to even get bumped down even lower. But again, if you wait for the trade deadline and he maybe be moved before then I can understand why you want to hold on to him. At that point, it will probably be Gainwell.
Start sit question. Doesn't indicate whether it's I'm assuming it's PPR. Let's just say it's PPR. Devonta Smith or Romeo Dobbs this week?
I'm gonna go Devonta Smith. I think he's due. He didn't play well last week. They have a better matchup this week. I think they have Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and with Dobbs, I mean, he's been playing well the last couple of weeks, but in that system, you just don't know. And they're playing the Jags too. So, hmm. Hmm. I'm gonna go Devonta Smith still.
Okay.
Because I think Dobbs is kind of touchdown dependent. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Only time he has good games if he caught a touchdown. Other than that, his targets is not very high. And he don't get a lot of yardage.
I have Derrick Henry. Should I pick up Keaton Mitchell, who just came off of IR?
I think if you have an IR spot, pick him up and just hold him. You know what I mean? That's what I would do. I would use if you have an available spot in your IR spot, go ahead and pick before they make the move, before they change him. Just go ahead and acquire him and have him sitting there. And then you may not have to make any moves. You know what I mean? You'll have him sitting there.
This trade is kind of interesting. Let me see who sent who what. The listener is acquiring Tank Bigsby and Travis Kelce and giving up James Cook and Brock Bowers. I think that's Brock Bowers right now is the number one tight end. Bigsby over Cook. I can kind of see that being that's pretty close.
I'm keeping Cook and Bowers.
But do you think that it's a bad trade, or you just prefer the side of Cook and Bowers?
I don't think it's a bad trade. I think it's you're thinking Kelce gonna blow up again. We just haven't seen that Kelce. Bowers look better than Kelce at this point. He's the number one guy in his system.
I just noticed something. I see the time on this, the day and time. This trade was made before the Hopkins news came out. This trade was made the day before the Hopkins news came out.
Well, there you go. I still like Bowers, man. In my opinion, I think Bowers is like the number one tight end in fantasy at this point, due to situation. I mean, he's getting double-digit targets now. Yeah. I think he had 14 targets this past week. Like, he's getting.
Jacoby Myers is back, so that could kind of dip into the target share just a little bit. But he's still been one of the most targeted tight ends in general this year. So let's see here. A couple more. I have Chase Brown and Bucky Irving. I want to move one of them for DeAndre Hopkins. Who should I trade?
I would say Bucky.
Okay.
Only because it's a committee. There's 3 guys involved. They come out and say they're gonna ride over the hot hand is. Seeing Tucker get a little bit of love as well. And Chase Brown has really become the 1A a little bit in that situation. And again, with Moss not being strangers to injury, who knows if that can continue. So I think I would keep Chase and I would trade Bucky Irving. I like Bucky Irving though, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a 3-headed monster over there. So I'm gonna go with 2 of 3.
Cortland Sutton, Jackson Smith and Jigba, or Odunze the rest of the season. PPR.
Ugly. Oh. I mean, Sutton's the number 1, even though he's not doing anything. Man, and Jigba is. If Mick was out for longer, I probably would like him a lot more. Maybe in Jigba.
That's where my mind went.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna say Jigba.
I think he still has a little bit more of a ceiling that he can possibly reach in the.
Yeah, I'm gonna say in Jigba for sure.
All right, last one up, and this is another trade that has already happened. They want a grade on it. Actually, they didn't ask for a grade. They say, "Did I fleece or get fleeced?" I received Tyreek Hill. I gave up Nick Chubb, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk.
You won that trade.
Yeah. Not only do you have the best player in the trade, but you also open up I don't know how large your league is, but it's normally something on the waiver wire. So you got the best player and open up 2 spots to be able to pick up whoever else that might be a jewel for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I
Or
don't know who made that. I know that the league probably upset at that one.
I mean,
Yeah,
based on when it happened,
I
he
don't
did
care.
exactly what we always say. He used the news as currency. I'm assuming that the person that he traded to might have been a Kansas City fan, might have been a Hopkins fan, might have been somebody that just got excited when he heard that Hopkins was going to Kansas City. And
Yeah, but I mean, like we've been, if people been listening, our listeners been can contest to this is we've been telling you buy, and I did it weeks ago. I told you I bought the Tyreek Hill stock when it was at its worst, and now I should get a return on my investment. I'm thinking with Tua back. Um, Man, I have him in a league in the Gospel Fantasy League where I paired him up with Justin Jefferson. Should be on. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely see why that person did it. Hey, kudos to them. I think they definitely won that trade easily.
yeah, if you can get the best player in the trade and you are giving up players that you don't mind losing, it's normally a trade that works out well for you. That's kind of the general rule of thumb when looking at a trade. And you got the quality for the quantity type of a setup there as well. So that pretty much wraps it up for us today. Make sure you check out the show tomorrow. We'll be going over a little bit of everything: your MLB, your NBA, your WNBA, NFL, our truth and nothing but the truth. Make sure you check out BK Wins. He's been putting money in everybody's pockets with his best bets, all that good stuff. So for this evening, we out. Make sure you check us out tomorrow again on YouTube at The Gospel STP. And the Facebook group is The Gospel Sports Truth Facebook group. And remember, guys, always tell the truth and nothing but the truth. We out.